Morning. All right, so before we can get going today, we got to get the day started. So as you guys know, I love my coffee, and for Christmas, my sister got me this bag of coffee from the Sterling Coffee Roasters, which is a local coffee roaster to her in Portland, Oregon, where she lives. But as you can tell, this is probably going to be the last pot of coffee with this, which is devastating because I am obsessed with this coffee recently. So let's go ahead and get this, and then we'll jump into what we're doing today. All right, so today we are going to be fixing this jank front bumper. What I've got is what's called a quick disconnect system, more or less. So it looks pretty rinky-dink, but trust me, it's solid. So for like quick disconnect options for front bumpers, you've kind of got two different setups you can go with. You can do this, which is like, it actually bolts onto the frame of your car. And this essentially has a button on the front that you press, and it quickly disconnects, hence the name, and then it snaps back into place. Or you can do like, there's kits that have essentially just this front piece, and then it's like a rubber band, and it just connects the bumper to the back half, like the front fender of the car. This is a lot more secure than that, so that's why we went with this option. All right, so if you guys recall, the last time I did a video on this front bumper, it's essentially held on with zip ties, which is not what you want. So we've got some 10mm bolts up front here. I believe we have like 2 or 3 10mm bolts on the bottom that we're gonna try to get to. I'm not sure how this whole front splitter is gonna affect the situation, but because it doesn't run like all the way underneath. Like it's basically attached to the front bumper, like underneath the front lip, more or less. So I think we'll just be able to take these 10mm bolts off, take off the 10mm bolts underneath, and then cut our zip ties from the corners. So this here is what I'm talking about. You've got this big, essentially, panel gap all the way across here, and then you can see all this hatching. And so if you look right here, you can see like 2 or 3 zip ties where this little triangular piece is actually supposed to be part of this front bumper, but for some reason this is not connected to that. So what they did was bolt this piece in like normal and then just zip tie this piece to the front bumper. So that's what you get when you buy a salvage title car from a sketchy dealership in the middle of nowhere in Tennessee. So be careful when buying cars, people. Okay, so I'll show you guys the jack stand I just got. This is a the floor jack. This is the Pittsburgh Harbor Freight floor jack, the 3-ton low profile. This is okay to buy from Harbor Freight. The floor jack itself is okay to get from Harbor Freight, but repeat after me. We do not use Harbor Freight jack stands. We do not use Harbor Freight jack stands. There was a lawsuit about the Chinese jack stands from Harbor Freight failing, and so we don't use those. If it's gonna be holding up the car while you're underneath it, we're not playing around with that. Like, I'm okay with this because this is not gonna be holding the weight of the car while I'm underneath it. So I got the Husky brand, an American company brand, that are not gonna fail on me while I'm laying underneath the car. They also have a 1-year warranty, so that's nice. Okay, so now we've got the car lifted up. I'm gonna get underneath. It looks like the splitter is held on with a hex bolt, like an Allen wrench bolt of some size, but there's like 7 different bolts, so I'm gonna see if I can get those pulled off. All right, so now that we've got the front splitter off, we've gotten all of the bolts to take off the front bumper, Now comes a little bit of a commitment point where I've got to cut off the zip ties that I currently have on there and pull the front bumper off. So hopefully this whole thing works, and then I won't need to zip tie the front bumper back together. If I have to do that, I have to do that, but I'd really prefer not to. Well, this front end was zip tied and bolted on, whereas this corner was just not bolted in at all. If you're buying a car from a dealership and it's got a salvage title where it's been in an accident, they fixed it, and now they're selling it for cheap, just know that you're probably gonna have to fix things that they didn't. Good for the most part, however, I just remembered that because of the fact that there's lights in the front bumper, I'm gonna disconnect those, but other than that, we should be good. All right, so it's literally taken me probably an hour and a half to 2 hours. The install time was supposed to be an hour and a half. It has taken me that long just to get the front bumper off, so. Oh, okay, I see. So this actually has an aftermarket front bash bar already, which is actually really nice. Yeah, because I was wondering how the splitter attached, like how these splitter rods attached, and they attach onto this front bash bar. So that's kind of nice, because that was something I would want to do anyway, is replace the front bash bar with one of these. So that's nice. That saves me about 300 bucks. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna need to do is remove this headlight bracket. So this piece has a 10 mil here, a 10 mil underneath, and a 10 mil up top. So those 3 10 mils, and then also this little plastic bracket is right where I'm gonna need to be installing those 2 metal rods for the front bumper disconnect. So this piece is just gonna get pulled and trashed, more or less. This is gonna get removed and then reinstalled. Okay, I was expecting to be able to break this piece off a lot easier, but it's proving to be more difficult than I expected. There we go. Okay, so flathead screwdriver, snap this little piece off. Literally, we'll never use this again, so that just becomes trash. So now these 2 holes, well, really not even these 2 holes. I need this one hole, and then I'm actually gonna have to drill a new one in basically the front frame here. So I'm gonna go ahead and screw the one in here, and then I'll talk about how this is gonna get drilled. Okay, so now that I've gotten this bolt installed, what I've got to do is drill a hole right basically in the center between this crease and this crease along the top of this line. All right, so I've got my tape, I've got my center mark, I've got it knocked. So all we gotta do is drill a 1/4 inch hole right on that mark. Okay, so here comes the most, well, not the most difficult part of this, but I've done this on the other side already, and getting the other one of these rods into this little hole that I drilled is near impossible. It's so difficult. The reason being is because you have a washer and a nut that need to go on the inside of this, and so it's so tight in here, like I'll show you. It's so tight, like I can only get a few fingers in this side, a few fingers in this side. So like I need to get both the washer and the nut behind this little hole and hold it so that I can feed the other one of these rods through it and then screw it in. It probably took me 15 minutes at least of just trying to figure out how to do it. So I'll show you guys what I came up with because I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. So we've got a nut and a washer on this side. On the other side, we have another nut and a washer. What I ended up doing was cutting a little piece of tape, folding it in half. I'm doing it like this. This tiny little, focus. Yeah. So I've got it like that. So the tape is not going through the hole, but it will allow these two pieces to stay together, hopefully, on the backside so that I can run this and then put this, the other bolt, through and then start threading it. Oh, let's do this. Oh God. My knees are killing me. Okay. Well, that already didn't work. All right, well that didn't quite go exactly as planned, but we are almost perfect. Okay, now hold that. And screw this in. Once I get this thread, we'll be okay, but. Oh, thank goodness. God. Doing that on the other side was so incredibly stressful. Let me see here. These two rods now are not quite at the same angle. Yeah, so you see how like this one's angled up a little bit because that can't do anything about it. It's just on this flat surface. This one has these little angled spacers, so I can change the angle of this one. So what I think I'm gonna do is loosen this one up. I've done this on the other side already, but loosen this one up a bit and try and adjust the angle so that these two match. Okay, so we have readjusted these rods to be a little bit closer to the actual edge of the front fender. So we are going to take some grease and just dab a little bit onto these bolts or onto these rods, and then we'll essentially remount the front bumper. We won't actually put in any screws or anything. We just want to get the marks from the grease off of the rods onto the inside of the front bumper so we know where to drill. There we go. Now that I've kind of got the front bumper up here, my first attempt wasn't necessarily the most successful. So now that it's like soft mounted, I can pull this corner out, remark my two little rods, and then push this back up and make sure that it all lines up properly. So it's two. Okay, cool. So now we're just gonna do it again, just to be positive, you know. I don't want my grease to get rubbed off. At the same time, I want to make sure that we're, and I can see that there's still a little bit of gap here, so like even after I drill these holes and like get these things mounted up. All right, so I've mounted the bumper 3 times, and the second and third time the marks came out really, really close together. So I'm actually gonna do an 1/8 inch drill. Maybe I'll only drill 1 hole at a time. I'll drill like the back corner on each side, mount it up, make sure it lines up, and then do the second one, mount it up, make sure it lines up, and then we'll go 1/4 inch, and then we'll do our step up, like Christmas tree drill bit, up to a 3/4 inch hole. All right. Okay, moment of truth. The first 2 holes I drilled were good, so that gives me a little bit more confidence on the next 2. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. A lot of stress, but I think we're gonna be good. Now we're gonna expand these 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch, and then from the 1/4 inch holes, we're gonna go up to a 3/4 inch. And then we'll throw it all back together. That's like the stressful part, more or less done, is just test fitting, making sure you drilled the first holes in the right spot. Now we can expand the holes without really having to worry about it too much. This is more or less what we wanna see. So these, not quite, but yeah, these holes lining up. So you can see the rod and through the holes that I drilled. So that is exactly what we want to see. Yeah, there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, final test fit. there's your, yeah, so I was saying like, would be nice if these were drilled just a tiny bit lower so that it would pull it up so it wasn't quite such a gap there. But honestly, that's way, way better than it used to look. There is actually one more little thing that I forgot about, but like as I was thinking about reassembling all of this, I remembered I'm gonna have to do, so that is a slight modification of the headlight bracket. The second bolt, so this rod here, whenever you go to put the underlying bracket that goes underneath your headlight back on, this is gonna be in the way of that little bracket. So we just need to cut off a little square piece off of that bracket, and then it'll be good to go. So I've got my angle grinder. I'm just gonna put a little cutting disc on and cut that off. And it's not a big deal. Like, you're not losing a tab where it like mounts onto the chassis or anything. It's literally just extra plastic that's there for no reason. So we're gonna get that cut off, bolt it all back together, and call it a day. Okay, so I've got the passenger side headlight bracket here, and this is essentially what we're gonna be cutting. I've marked, that's all we need. This doesn't bolt into anything. Like, this little hole is not being used, so that doesn't matter. So really, we're literally just cutting off a piece of plastic that doesn't bolt to anything, doesn't need to be there. Like, I'm not concerned about it. I'm just gonna cut it off. Just like that. Real simple, no big deal. Driver's side piece cut off, and if you wanted to, you could sand this down and smooth it out and make it real nice, but it's going underneath the front bumper. Nobody's ever gonna see it. Like, I'm not too that concerned about it. With that done, all of the work is complete. All we have to do is bolt everything back up, bolt on those headlight supports, brackets that I just cut, bolt those back up. There's 3 10mm bolts for that. Throw the front bumper back on, put all my little 5 10mm bolts up top. There's 2 10mm bolts on the bottom, and then rehook up my splitter, and then we will actually be done. All right, guys, here is the final product. Yeah, I actually like the little red dots. I think it pops pretty nice. Panel gaps, so much better here, all the way around. This headlight as well, and then this is nice and flush. So that is gonna wrap it up for this install. I'm gonna get the car dropped and backed out of here. Then I gotta clean this garage up. So if you like this video, make sure you leave it a like. Follow the channel if you want to see more build content. This was just supposed to be a small thing that ended up taking a lot longer than it should have, but I've got some big things coming. I want to do a big brake kit. I want to go crazy with this thing in the future, but I'm still trying to save up to buy a house, so that might get put on the back burner for a little bit. But anyway, like the video if you liked it. Follow the build if you want to. If you want to see more from me, make sure you subscribe down below, and we'll see you guys on the next one. If you're still here watching this, I want to talk to you for a second. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting me in this whole YouTube effort attempt that I'm doing right now. You know, I'm trying to do what makes me happy. I'm trying to do what I'm passionate about, and I just really, really appreciate you guys' support of me through this whole building process. But with that said, there's still a ton of work left to do. I'm trying to put out at least 1 video a week, which I've been able to do so far, but it's been tough between working nights and the crazy schedules and weekends, and work is just kind of crazy right now. So again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your support. The first goal I'm trying to hit really for this channel is to get the channel monetized, which is 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 watch hours. So if you guys want to, if you have friends who might be interested in my kind of content, I would really appreciate it if you could tell them about it, share the videos on your social media platforms, or really just anything you guys can do to help me out, because I really, really appreciate you guys. I know I keep saying that, but I really do. I mean, the amount of support has been overwhelming. So thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next time.